Call everybody to order for our meeting. Everybody's here, I think, even though Ed just stepped away from the camera. Just quickly, we have a long agenda, and Tommy has a half an hour for sure and a little bit more. And so we want to sort of be a bit diligent as we zip through them. I emailed you the agenda as well as put it in the chat. So anyway, liability and insurance waivers, just to let you know, I have been in communication with Mitch, and he has not found an insurance coverage for our situation, given that it's in renovation and no one's there yet. He feels that it's okay. It hasn't been insured for a while, but just currently we do not have building insurance. We do have intact, board of directors insurance and volunteer insurance, but we don't have liability or property insurance. So any other discussion around that?
So there's no liability. Is that what you said, David?
That's right. We do not have a contract for liability insurance. And so it is our, we just have the boards and directors insurance. And so he's still looking for a policy that would cover the buildings and in the situation that they're in under renovation.
So once oh, sorry, Laurie, I don't mean to talk over you.
That's
sorry.
okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, once we're completed with the renovation, I don't know how we define that term renovation or whenever that's complete, then are we able to move forward with obtaining liability and property insurance?
My understanding, that's what he's implying, yes. He's also still looking for other entities that we could contract with. So, he's open for suggestions.
David, is there something, Lord forbid something would happen down there, to somebody, but is there something that we can do? And Tommy, you might know this, we can post something like enter at your own risk, or something that would take any kind of liability off of the board.
Well, there's two pieces, and it's the second part of this. One is a waiver, which we have a draft waiver that we should start using. And there's electronic versions, but once you have a waiver, you have to keep it for 5 years. And so it's just a requirement that you keep track of all that stuff. And they do have electronic services which allow you to do that, but then it just is up to the board and every committee that when they have people go there, they sign a waiver.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should definitely have everybody. If a trespasser gets hurt on the property that we're not with, we have no trespassing signs, and I don't really think. I think we would be okay from a liability standpoint for if a trespasser were to get injured on the property. But when we're taking people with us or people with permission, we should have them sign a waiver. Absolutely.
Okay, I'll get one and circulate it around. Any volunteers to review a waiver that we have?
Yeah, I'll do that, David.
Sounds great.
I can do
Sounds
that.
great. Thank you very much. Any comments there, Ed or Francis? And then we'll move on.
No. You say we do have, David? You say we do have no trespassing signs in there now, on there?
Yes, there are no trespassing signs. And we are going to, which is not on our report here, but the survey is happening. We met Jim Piles out there, and he's going to walk with us, and we'll post the signs on the boundaries at the same time.
Okay,
And that's a whole other issue of getting appropriate signage, but that's hopefully in the next week or 2 or 3.
yeah. My time's gonna open up, so I can volunteer to go down pretty soon.
Wonderful.
January's been crazy.
It is. Second item on the agenda is bylaws. And Tommy has agreed to review the bylaws. Any suggestions, Tommy, or any input from anybody else?
So oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Laurie.
Tommy, this is Francis. I just
Oh,
just
sorry.
a reminder of the bylaws were created specifically just to get our designation. They actually need to be
Of
built
course.
in some sort of way.
I'm
So,
aware. I'm aware.
yeah.
No, that's perfectly fine. So I'm actually exchanging emails with Rachel Chamberlain right now. She's getting over everything, her file, transitioning that over to me so I can take a look, and then I'm gonna go from there. So
We-
so I haven't.
The other
Go ahead.
reason why we did that was not just for efficiency standpoint reasons, but we did that because we didn't really know which direction the organization was going to be going. And so we bought time by having a placeholder. So decisions about structuring around bylaws can be cumbersome and time consuming. And so, now we know a little bit better about what we're doing.
Right.
So.
Do you
Well, we
need
have a
any
little bit
assistance?
clearer of an idea. I think it's still a work in progress, but we'll feel it out.
Do you need
Yeah.
any assistance, or do you want a committee member, or are you enjoying just working by yourself when you review it, then come back to us?
I think I'll take an initial crack at it, and then I'll present it to the board, and then we can discuss it at the board level, and then go from there. I don't. Yeah, unless anybody on this committee really wants to be a part of it. I mean, I don't want to deprive anyone of the joy, but figured that would be the most efficient way to get it done.
Moving on, filing our 990 IRS tax returns. It turns out that the neighbor to 125 Hubbard's Lane, Cassidy, and I'll get her last name, her mom owns a real estate agency in Vivi that does most of the taxes for Duke and Trimble County and in Switzerland County. And she's our neighbor and is wanting to be more involved, has 2 high school kids on the football team, and they're going to be involved in the cleanup that's coming up, which we can talk about in a minute. That's quite exciting, the Trimble County LG&E. But anyway, I wanted to sort of run by this committee the notion of hiring or contracting with a tax return place to file the 990 IRS term, because we have to have a larger return, as we have had more than $250,000 of income this year. So we have to have the expanded version of 990.
Tommy, is that? I thought that was a state-based, it's not a national standard, it's a state-by-state standard for nonprofits where if you hit a certain, we've triggered it, but I'm just curious, is that a federal standard we've triggered, or is it a Kentucky standard?
I don't know the answer to that. That's outside of my purview. So I don't know.
The 990 is solely federal, so it's probably a federal standard. I didn't know there was such a,
What I'm
we've
saying
always-
is that an audit gets triggered when if you're just a little nonprofit that makes 10,000, your books are $10,000 a year or something like that, then you don't have to do you don't have to file an audit. And so sometimes, or go through the process of a substantial, reporting, but
It's actually 50,000. My wife is right here, who has spent time looking at it recently.
okay. Well, either way, we hit it. So, next topic.
Anyway, the question at hand is going to an outside firm for filing this stuff. And does anybody have any special firm they love, or does using a local firm that works in the neighborhood a good thing?
Yeah, I
Did
mean,
you-
our auditor and, you know, is great. It's Chamberlain and Owen. It's up here in Northern Kentucky. They charge us $500 for our 990. Of course, we pay the audit, you know, but you know, the 990 is taken from the information that's created by your audit. And so it's just an additional $500 for that. But there should be some kind of, you know, if there's a lot of money coming in, which, you know, there has been, then there definitely should be minimum of financial review. And then they can file a 990 as well.
Sounds great.
And they're really good with nonprofits and small nonprofits. I'll send you his information.
Please
They-
do.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anything else on filing the 990? This next part might take a little bit of time. And I did send you, let's see if I can share this again. I sent everybody just recently our two little forms. And my wife, who's sitting next to me, has volunteered to take over some of the financial bookkeeping from Jessica, as we don't have a treasurer. Anyway, our bank balance totally is to the penny. Every donation and every expense has been accounted for. And we have $242,808.03 in the bank, with $125,000 still outstanding that we can request at any time for restoration. 125,000, she says, you're right. And so this is sort of what, and the next page that I sent is, if I can, this is really till December of 2022. This next page that I sent is our draft budget, and it is estimated because we have to work with committees. And so like the walking trails, that's a wild estimate, and it might even be done by volunteers. And so this is a ballpark estimate. And so what I'm looking for, and a lot of these will be decided by the board and by the committees as they say how much they need for different things. But the question I have is format. And so I'm looking for some suggestions. This is our first sort of draft thing, and maybe when we get with the auditor and whatever firm we use, they could sort of help structure it. But if anybody has any suggestions or ideas, I'd be very welcome and open to it. Any thoughts?
Can you go back to the top of the, so we have the budget, the expense, the percent spent of last year, correct?
Right, this was our big ballpark deal that we sort of sat down and said, this is what we need, you know, that's that 222 budget. And then I went through and said, you know, the expenses that we had in those categories and percent spent. So we didn't do anything in walking bridges at all when we said, oh, we're going to spend $5,000 last year. And we didn't spend any money at all on it. So many things, we didn't really do anything. The building stabilization fund, you know, people have donated some supplies. So we just haven't spent any money. And then this 40,000, it depends on how much we do this year. Ray Kleinhelter, which is our only contractor, has estimated $90,000. That was his ballpark estimate. But the Buildings and Grounds Committee most likely will have a bid process, you know, working with we met with the Kentucky Historical Society out there, and they're now developing a more of an itemized job list and seeking people who could do it. These are estimates, so I guess that's what I'm looking for. Is any other suggestions or a category name? I'd be willing to talk offline and whatever.
So
Mhm.
question is, do we have, I see the administrator assistant consultant line. Is there any contemplation to potentially use the resources, any of these resources to pay for not just our 990 filing, but also a professional accountant to help us with our books and our reporting?
Yeah, you're right. There's no,
So if we have the resources, and it looks like we do, I would suggest we consider or I will volunteer to get pricing and find, I mean, it might not be someone, probably be the same person who would find your 990, David. And if you want to ask your 990 CPA down the road, if they would be willing to, our books should not be that hard to do.
mm-mm.
So
Right.
I think it would be great if we had a professional put them in QuickBooks and run our books for us and run reports for us. And we need to figure out what that expense would be from a CPA firm.
Perfect.
So we can.
So
yeah.
I was going to volunteer to do that, David, to find out from a CPA firm what the monthly expense would be or even quarterly expense. But if you already have an idea in mind to use a particular entity that you do your 990, it's likely the same person or group.
It would-
do-
yeah, well,
Could you? Mhm.
no, it should be somebody's, there should be separation of duties. So you don't want your CPA firm to handle the books and provide the review and file the 990. There should be, you can have a volunteer bookkeeper to do the QuickBooks part, and then that all that information would go to your CPA or the auditor.
Okay, well then I couldn't get a price on a CPA up here. I'm going through this process with another 501c3. Tommy, it's the Tri-State Trails is becoming its own 501c3, so they're splitting from Green Umbrella. Since you're local, you might know those entities. Anyway, we're setting up a bookkeeping group essentially to do the Tri-State Trails book. So I've actually been on the phone with them on behalf of the Tri-State Trails. I can try and get, let me extract some pricing from them and see what it would cost.
Yeah, because a bookkeeper is going to be less money than a CPA anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you, Francis. We'll be in touch and we'll talk off road. The next item is our Stockyards and Trust Company. We still have not made any arrangements with investing our funds, nor with accepting stocks on an easy basis, nor having an arrangement where people want to include us in their will with a bequest. And so those arrangements have not been made. And we have a name down at Stockyards Bank, which we've not done yet. Tommy, you offered to talk to somebody at the bank that you're working with in Northern Kentucky. Is there a benefit of using Stockyards if our day-to-day account is with Stockyards, or is an investment account and a recipient for an eventual endowment, which we're going to have very little money in at the beginning? Does that matter where it is?
What do you, I think Laurie can speak to this with her experience at the museum. Laurie, I hate to put you on the spot, but what do you think?
Well, what we've just been going through all of this here at Behringer, and what we found, we do have an account with Fidelity, investment account. And what we have found is that we're taking some of our cash, and because of the way the stock market has been, we're taking some of our cash assets and putting them into, and I'm just going to go blank on it, but they're CDs, but they're basically making more money, but they're a ladder. So you can put them in for a short term, 3 months, 6 months, 9-month term. And so you can, if anything should come up, it's basically our reserve funds. So if anything would come up and we would need that money, it'll be available in a 3-month period or a 6-month period or a 9-month period or whatever. And what we found, banks can do that. Banks can do the same thing, but you get more percentages from an investment account such as Fidelity. You get a higher return than you do with banks. Because we've looked at it we looked at it through our banks, and we looked at it through Fidelity, and the interest rates are higher through the investment account. So, it just depends on, the money sitting there. And, if you've got, what is $242,000, and nothing's being needed right now at the moment, it's definitely might want to get that invested somehow to earn some interest. Because is it earning anything right now, David?
Very little within the next time, and probably the summertime will be the renovation starting, and that's the next big expense.
Yeah, so even a 3-month CD, an investment, I can't remember the exact amount, but it was somewhere like 4%, something in that range, and you're not getting anywhere near that in banks.
Okay. Well,
that means setting up some kind of a investment, if there's an investment firm down there or Fidelity. I mean, you can do sometimes with a lot of this, if you've got, you can do it on your own, and not have to go through. And in Behringer, we've done it our own because we have, that kind of expertise on our board, and then you don't have to pay for the fees involved with the investors, or the what are they called? The guys that do this stuff for you. So we do it ourselves.
Maybe the agent, and maybe that's what it comes down to, is our need for a treasurer / finance person on our board. So if anybody has any suggestions on recruiting a finance person to help with this, or strategies, and we'll continue to talk to Stockyards, and if there's other options out there, let us know.
I mean, Stockyards would have the ability, right? But and maybe there's a banker there that would be willing to be on the board. Since the money's in their bank, as long as there's not a conflict there.
Good ideas.
I was about to say I would volunteer to be your treasurer if we had a professional bookkeeper involved, but I held my tongue, and I'm not going to do it, even though you've asked. Yeah, to be fair, David did send me the budget 2 weeks ago, and I said I'll get to it this weekend, and then I never did.
Well, many thanks to my volunteer wife, or my wife who is a volunteer. And so it's a pleasure. And so it's it's just nice to know that we're totally balanced. And all of our donations have received acknowledgments for their taxes and personal letters. And so we're up to snuff with that. One of the big pieces that surprised me is $870 fee for our online Stripe account.
Yes.
Which just sort of says, and so, I think that's something that Joe Wallach set that up with with Squarespace, and so it's just an expensive 2.2%. So there's other better deals out there.
Yeah, that really popped out for me too, David. That's a lot.
That's a lot. So sounds great. Just as we have a grants and agreements section here, we're supposed to sort of talk a little bit about grants. Just wanted to let everybody know that this NSF grant has gone forward. We are hiring for undergraduate and graduate students to work at Payne Hollow this summer part-time, and then the rest of the time they'll be at the university working on mapping and final report issues, but they'll be on site 2 or 3 days a week. Payne Hollow on the Ohio, there's no money out of it, but we'll be asked to sign a participation agreement with the University of Louisville Speed School. So now you're all fully informed, and if anybody has any young people or recently graduated people, we'd love to talk. One other piece is this development of a policy manual. If anybody has any interest in helping draft our policies for who goes onto the land and when they visits happen, and making sure people sign waivers, you're more than welcome to volunteer. I'm sharing that little piece right now, and hopefully in the next month I'll have a draft version of it done. But it's a sort of an important piece coming up because we have met with our neighbors for this cleanup that LG&E is sponsoring. They're going to bring a barge and anchor it right there by Payne Hollow, and then provide all the staff to unload or load all of the, probably 55 gallon drums, all of the spare wood or junk wood, and probably another 150 bags of trash. And our neighbors would like us, we met with the county judge, and he would like us to do the entire shoreline from Milton on down, another 8 miles. And then the Trimble County Historical Society is going to provide lunch for everybody. And the Trimble County Court is going to supervise the football team. So we will have 9 to 12 football players to carry 55 gallon drums down to it. And so that's one of the pieces.
We will definitely want them to we'll definitely want them to sign waivers.
We definitely want them to sign waivers, and we'll have this whole policy manual in place by then.
When does this take place?
This is the first weekend, April 15th. That weekend is when LG&E is going to have their barge there, and they'll have between 10 and 12 people to load. We can't go on the barge, and so they'll transfer it, and so we just have to get all the garbage down to the edge. And then we also have the UK extension, which has 3 extension agents, and we'll have plenty of help. And so that's our policy manual piece.
And the football players are college or high school?
High school.
Oh boy. Okay.
Why are they making these kids do this? I think it's amusing that the politician wants you to, when you ask him for help, now you're gonna have, if he's not seen the trash at Payne Hollow, then 8 miles of shoreline is a bit much to ask.
He used to be a deputy superintendent of LG&E Trimble County plant, which is right adjacent to us, and they're providing the barge. And so it might be that if we have extra volunteers, what we have told him is that we're going to clean up Payne Hollow first, and then we can work with Preston Plantation, which is our immediate neighbor, which has a conservation easement on it. And then right upstream from us is a group from Indianapolis. They just bought 100 acres. And so we have a pretty big tract of land, and and the county judge who's just taken office is very, very interested in the process. And
Wow.
Metro Council, you know, one of the elected magistrates walked on down with us to plan the event. So I think it'll go well.
You said it's April 15th, is that right?
It's that weekend of April 15th. Now, one of the things that this committee is going to do is to say, what's the best strategy to get all the trash down to the level? Because we can bring it down a day, a week in advance. It doesn't all have to be done that day. And so, but you know, we'll have a big event on April 15th, if that's the Saturday.
Yeah.
I think that's the
So-
Saturday.
Who's working on policy? Are our committee supposed to be working on the policies?
Our committee, yes, under administration, we're going to make sure that the policy manual gets done. And so part of it is, like, Jessica is going to do her little piece on policy and artifacts. And so what is, you know, and so our job is to assemble all of it. And so there's many things, you know, is visitation really education, or is it buildings and grounds and service? So there's some overlap. And so I'm just volunteering myself to pull it all together. And if anybody else wants to help with it, you're more than welcome.
And can we get our hands on a policy manual of sorts from a commiserate entity that we could use as, or is that what you're planning on doing, David?
Yes. Well, there's two places. The Kentucky State Nature Preserves Commission has their policy manual, which covers land management, building management, as well as recreational and access. So that's basic template. And then the Education Committee, interestingly, has started to try to collect similar places. And we came up with one. There's a young man, well, not young, he passed away already, named Aldo Leopold up north. And his place called The Shack is a classic center based around a shack, just like our shack. And it was the place where he wrote Land Ethic, just like Mr. Hubbard wrote this, and it's used for a research education center, and it's basically the home of the Aldo Leopold Foundation. It's a fascinating place, and they have a policy manual. And so we'll get their policy manual too. So if other people have other suggestions for policy manuals, you know, this is a longer term piece.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
You are more than welcome to.
I didn't hear about the Kentucky Secretary of State report. Is that someone who is going to do that?
As of now, I will take care of that. That's
Okay,
just really online, paying $15.
right. Okay.
Uh,
The other was the NSF grant. What exactly is that again?
The NSF grant is a grant that the University of Louisville Speed School has for community research. And it's a component funded through NSF, but for industrial engineering. And they have 3 different projects, one teacher-based that looks at future technologies in education and in the workforce. Then there's another one that is focused on administration. And then this one is high school, undergraduate, and graduate students working in the community, applying community research initiatives through the lens of an engineering school. And so there's 4 research projects, one in Beargrass Creek, which I supervise that one as well. And that uses the National Geographic Debris Tracker, where we go and identify locations of litter in our streams. and compare that to water quality. And we did it last year, and we'll do it again this year. The Payne Hollow project is focused on basically a biological inventory. We're currently working with the Kentucky State Nature Preserves Commission, and we have Deb White has done the botanical version of it, at least the first phase of it, and this research will come the rest of it, as well as insects and birds and bats, and basically fulfill all of the requirements of the Nature Preserves Commission. And they'll do all the GIS piece. So they're going to develop a GIS, basic database for the property and link the natural and cultural resources to it. And then finally, what our professor is most interested in is the virtual reality and artificial intelligence potential of a place like Payne Hollow on the Ohio. And so these are all graduate students, undergraduate students, set loose for 8 weeks. The two other projects are working with the Christy Brown Institute of Good Stuff in downtown Louisville. And they're building a new building, and they got a park next to them, a beautiful urban downtown. And so the kids are going to be doing the same thing, basically downtown, doing an ecological inventory and planning. And then the fourth group is Charleston, Indiana, where we have our big new industrial plant on the other side of the river, and they're doing a park assessment. Four teams. That's what the NSF grant is. It's a 5-year grant that will have 4 more years of students working. We can also hire a teacher. And so that application process is out there now to help supervise the projects. And I have reached out. I talked with the county judge and said if they could introduce me to the high school biology teacher there at Trimble County High School. And I haven't had that yet. And I'm not in charge of the interviews. That's all through the Speed School. I'm just the content guy.
That's great.
So it's a nice deal, and they're I think they're at least according to it says has 4 other universities involved in this: Purdue, Penn State, U of L, and one other one. And so it's a little, it's a coalition. And so there's opportunities down the road for doing greater engagement, especially if we want to go down that road of virtual reality and, having, online cameras and this and that. But
Yeah, that's great.
But, one of the pieces and what we did not do, which is sort of, and maybe we should ask for it from now on, is a site fee. So when we have these, like U of L gets 40% overhead for any project that they do for helping with facilities. We're getting a benefit because we're getting some of the work done, and it's our first year. But we want to eventually start to say, we want 10% of this grant going into our endowment for overhead. But that's another question. Maybe that's a policy.
There you go.
Anything else for the good of the order? I'm heading up to Payne Hollow this Friday if anybody wants to come.
Are we doing number 8 and number 9, or is that something different?
Oh, let's see. Did I run out? Number 8 and number 9. We talked a little bit about 125 Hubbard's Lane before you got on, Lori, and that's our adjacent property. And there's a chance that one of our board members might purchase it, and then possibly lease
Lori,
it.
I'm not buying it.
Oh, Tommy, come on.
Not Tommy.
Not it. So that narrows that down.
It's one of the board members who just sold a house in California.
I'm taking that's not California, Kentucky.
No. And so there's, and it would still be a wonderful piece, and if it happens, it happens, and I hope it does, because I think it's a game changer for us, and if it does, he will, we've talked in a variety of different processes of maybe leasing it from him on a lease amount, which we've not talked about, and is it leasing the whole thing, or he keeps the house and we lease the back part of it, and so it'd be a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
One of the big advantages of it, in doing our research with our surveyor, is that the road, Payne Landing Road, is on their property. So our easement goes to our property, and if you wanted to continue walking on down the old road, we don't have an easement on it right now. At least we don't know if we do or not.
yeah.
And so it would be a good thing. And then the last piece is 3 short-term goals and 3 medium-term goals for our committee. So each one of these crews that we have going on is going to, like the education group and the buildings and grounds. And so trying to organize ourselves. What are 3 short-term goals and 3 long-term goals? Oh, invest money is
Find a bookkeeper. Invest money, find a bookkeeper.
Mhm. Get our
Have Francis fix your budget.
our audit in 990s.
990. Another legal.
Those are short term. You asked about long term?
Long term. Oh, this is medium term, 4 to 6 months, 4 to 12 months, 4 to 12 months.
Well, you also
Well,
have the bylaws. Those are,
Bylaws, good one.
policy manual.
well, for this group, it would be, there's no financial policy yet, right?
Right.
So you would definitely need the financial, there's usually a credit card policy, there's the spending policy, there's the investment policy, all that kind of comes under. The financial side.
Perfect. Liability and property.
Mm-hmm.
We, as the financing committee, need to know from the other committees what their proposed budgets are for anything they need. So,
That's short term.
medium, you already have guesses in your budget, don't you?
I have my guesses in the budget.
Have we shared the budget to
Not
others?
yet. Well, they have the preliminary budget that we shared last month. They don't have this updated one yet. So we've just really, I've just spent the past 2 weeks going through every single check and checking them all off and making sure it's all done and meeting with the bank to on and on and on. So no, we've not. That's my goal tomorrow, is to get all that out.
Don't forget the bylaws.
Bylaws.
That should be short term, the review. So what's the fiscal year? Is it
How about
calendar
at the
year?
end of December 31st,
Okay. So it's calendar year.
calendar year,
Okay.
because then our taxes are due May 15th. The 990s due May 15th.
Ooh, that's cutting it pretty short. We're in February. Wow. Okay, so I'll contact John Chamberlain today for, and see how fast they can go.
Perfect.
Of course, you can do an extension, file an extension.
I
David,
think we should be able to get it done.
would Fife be offended if I worked on your budget? I think what she did was in a reconciliation of what you have, but can I pick at your budget like you asked me to do? And reform it?
You are so empowered. And please get it to me, and I won't share it with anybody else. That's one of the goals of this, our committees, is our little board was being inundated with a billion things on a billion days. And so as we go through committees, it makes it just a bit easier. Now, do you want all of the, we have another one with all the accounts, with every check and every donation?
No, that's the reconciliation. That's your checkbook. That's your reconciliation. What I'm gonna poke at is the formatting of your budget.
Well, one thing with the reconciliation of the budget is what goes into what category. And so maybe our categories aren't the accurate categories that we should have, or we could have more efficient, effective categories. That's what she's going to do. Did you hear that?
No,
He said, call her if you have any questions.
okay.
She's very approachable. Easy to live with. Put up with me for 45 years. It's a pure pleasure. Any other long-term or these medium-term goals? We have a policy manual and liability and property insurance. No, it's really not us, but I'd love to know our neighbors more. Who is in the neighborhood. We haven't met yet with the people from Preston Plantation. We're doing this thing with LG&E. We haven't met with the folks who own the, and I don't know how. Another piece is legal issues. Like one of them came up with bathrooms, and one of the folks said, let's build a pit toilet. And so I went through the Kentucky law, and you're not supposed to build pit toilets. And then in talking to one of the council folks, they said, we have a Department of Public Health. And so there's all sorts of regulations which we have not considered really much at all in visitation. We aren't open to the public. And so, who is that person to figure out of what are all those laws that we're supposed to give, or the regulations that we're supposed to abide by if we're a public institution? But I don't know if that's a medium-term goals. Is that liability and property insurance? It's really understanding the issue.
Is there a planning commission down there?
Construction.
Yeah, I don't know if I haven't met face to face with the judge yet. So that's next week. I go down and meet with him and
Yeah, they would definitely have county staff to be able to help with that.
Yeah.
Does that fall under our committee?
What exactly are the committees?
We have buildings and grounds, we have finance and administration, we have education and outreach, and we have communication.
It'd be buildings and grounds.
It'd be buildings and grounds. We'll give them something else.
I agree with Laurie. Not it.
I'm sorry, what'd you say,
Not
Tommy?
it. Not it.
Not it. Okay. Well, I said a half an hour, and we've been going for 50 minutes. which is exactly
Yeah,
what I said at
that's
the
like a
beginning.
That's like a
Of
half
the-
hour in academic time, so I'm impressed, David.
Let's just go on around. Ed, any observations, any thoughts that we should really work on?
Oh,
Ed? Oh,
I think the main thing is the bylaws and then the, getting the bookkeeper and the 990 and that kind of stuff's going.
perfect. Francis, any final observations?
No, I'm excited to hear the latest with the cleanup day, because that was a pickle.
Yeah,
I put it on my
it's
calendar.
it's sort of interesting working between LG&E and this Metro and this council guy, a magistrate. He is head of American Stainless Steel. Well, not head of it. He's a plant manager maybe at American Stainless Steel. But
Hmm.
we have two fairly large industries on either side of us, and the county judge and extension. So it's going to be and they're all totally dedicated. Turns out the plant manager, the plant maintenance director family grew up with the Hubbards. And so they're just lifelong friends. And so he just says, this is the first time somebody in the community's asked us to do something, and it's wonderful. And but he's just tickled to death.
Wow.
Small world.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. I'll type up some minutes, and thank you very much for looking into the bylaws. Look forward to getting the DPA information. And Francis, thanks for looking at the budget.
I will do it this time. I had to go to Chicago.
That's
And other
great.
things.
Thank you
Bye.
all.
Bye.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, everyone.